Before you watch this video, remember one thing. Old Hollywood wasn't built on dreams alone. It was built on secrets, blood, and mafia money. Behind the shining smiles and red carpets, many stars lived in fear of the underworld that ruled Tinseltown from the shadows. Some made deals they could never escape, and others paid the ultimate price, being buried alive by the mafia's ruthless hand. Number 1. George Raft, the gangster who played himself. George Raft wasn't just playing gangsters on screen. He was living like one in real life. Born in New York's tough streets, Raft's closest friends weren't Hollywood elites. They were actual mobsters. He was connected to infamous mafia figures like Bugsy Siegel and Meyer Lansky. When Raft refused certain film roles, rumors spread that the mafia pressured studios to back off. Some say Raft knew too many underworld secrets, and when he tried to distance himself, things turned dark. His career suddenly collapsed, his friends disappeared, and whispers claimed he was buried alive, financially and emotionally, by the very mafia he once protected. In the end, George Raft became a chilling symbol of how Hollywood's glitz couldn't save anyone from the mob's grip. Number 2. Bugsy Siegel, the gangster who controlled Hollywood. Bugsy Siegel wasn't a movie star, but in Hollywood's golden age, he was more powerful than any actor. This infamous mob boss had deep control over film studios, nightclubs, and even the stars themselves. Everyone feared him, including the biggest names in Hollywood. Siegel partied with actors like Clark Gable and Cary Grant, but behind those lavish parties were dark deals and silent threats. Many rising stars who refused his offers mysteriously vanished or lost their careers overnight. When Siegel's control started slipping, he tried to go legitimate with the Flamingo Hotel in Vegas, but the mafia saw him as a traitor. In 1947, he was shot dead in his girlfriend's Beverly Hills mansion. The message was clear: no one escapes the mafia alive. Number 3. Johnny Roselli, the mob's man inside Hollywood. Johnny Roselli was known as the mob's ambassador to Hollywood. He wasn't an actor, but he controlled what movies got made and who got to be in them. Working for Chicago's powerful mob, Roselli made secret deals with studio heads and manipulated film unions through fear and violence. He mingled with movie legends, but behind the charm, he was the mafia's enforcer. When Hollywood started investigating his ties, Roselli tried to keep things quiet, but the mafia doesn't forgive betrayal. In 1976, he was found stuffed in a steel drum, floating off the coast of Florida, his body chopped and mutilated. Many say he knew too much about the mob's Hollywood connections, including blackmail, murders, and secret affairs. Roselli's death was the ultimate warning to everyone in Tinseltown. In old Hollywood, silence wasn't golden, it was survival. Number 4. Mickey Cohen, the mobster who owned the stars. Mickey Cohen ruled Los Angeles like a movie villain, charming on the outside, deadly underneath. During Hollywood's golden age, he wasn't just a gangster. He was the man everyone feared to cross. Actors, directors, even studio owners paid him protection money to keep their names out of scandals. Cohen threw glamorous parties where Hollywood's brightest stars drank beside killers. He had secret relationships with actresses and was rumored to control which films got made, and who disappeared when things got messy. When he started talking too much about mafia business, the underworld turned on him. Several assassination attempts left him paranoid and broken. Though he survived, the mob buried him alive by destroying his empire and isolating him from the Hollywood world he once ruled. Mickey Cohen's story proves that fame and power mean nothing when the mafia decides your time is up. Number 5. Frank Sinatra, the star with dangerous friends. Frank Sinatra may have been the voice of an era, but behind his velvet songs hid some chilling truths. O.L. Blue Eyes wasn't just Hollywood royalty. He was the mafia's favorite son. Sinatra's rise to fame was rumored to be funded by mob bosses who fixed contracts, silenced rivals, and opened every door for him. He was close to powerful figures like Lucky Luciano and Sam Giancana, names feared across America. When his temper flared or someone crossed him, that person often vanished from the spotlight. Even the FBI had thousands of pages on his mob ties. Some insiders claimed Sinatra tried to break free later in life, but you don't just walk away from the mafia. His life became a constant act of loyalty and fear, a superstar who could never truly escape the shadows that built him. Number 6. Lana Turner, the starlet who loved a gangster. Lana Turner was the picture of Hollywood glamour, blonde, beautiful, and adored by millions. But her real-life drama was darker than any film she starred in. Turner fell deeply in love with Johnny Stompanato, a violent mob enforcer tied to Mickey Cohen's gang. Their romance quickly turned into a nightmare of jealousy, threats, and abuse. Hollywood whispered that Stompanato controlled her every move, even her career choices, under orders from the Mafia. But in 1958, things turned deadly when Lana's teenage daughter stabbed Stompanato during one of his violent outbursts. The killing was ruled justifiable, yet rumors spread that the Mafia swore revenge. After that, Lana lived in fear, haunted by the men who once ruled her life from the shadows. She might have survived the Mafia's grip, but emotionally, she was buried alive forever. Number 7. Jean Harlow, the blonde bombshell silenced by secrets. Jean Harlow was Hollywood's first true blonde goddess, adored on screen, but trapped in a deadly world off it. Behind her fame lay a chilling connection to organized crime. Her husband, Paul Byrne, worked for MGM and had deep ties with mob-run financiers who secretly funded films. When Byrne was found dead in 1932, an alleged suicide, nothing added up. The note was strange, the evidence tampered with, and witnesses silenced. Many believed he was executed by the Mafia over studio money and Harlow's growing fame. After that, Jean's life spiraled. She grew ill, paranoid, and whispered to friends that they're watching me. At just 26, she mysteriously died, with rumors that the mob poisoned her to keep secrets buried forever. Jean Harlow became a tragic symbol of how even the brightest star could be dimmed by Hollywood's darkest power, the Mafia. Number 8. Marilyn Monroe, the icon who knew too much. Marilyn Monroe wasn't just Hollywood's golden girl. She was the most dangerous woman alive to those in power. Behind her soft smile and glamorous image, Monroe was entangled with some of America's most powerful men, including President John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, and several Mafia bosses like Sam Giancana. She became the link between politics, fame, and organized crime. But when she began talking too much about the secrets she knew, government affairs, mob deals, and hidden crimes, her days were numbered. In August 1962, she was found dead in her home, officially ruled as an overdose. Yet, investigators, journalists, and even former mob insiders claim the Mafia helped silence her to protect their network. Marilyn's beauty built her empire, but her truth destroyed her. She wasn't just a victim of fame. She was buried alive by the very secrets she carried. Number 9. Sammy Davis Jr., the star who danced with the devil. Sammy Davis Jr. was one of the most talented performers of the 20th century. Singer, dancer, actor, comedian. He had it all. But behind his dazzling smile, Sammy lived under the Mafia's shadow. In the 1950s and 60s, Las Vegas was run by mob families, and every Rat Pack show, including Sammy's, was financed or controlled by them. He was close to Frank Sinatra, and through him, tied to mob bosses like Sam Giancana and Lucky Luciano. The Mafia loved Sammy's fame, but hated his freedom. His interracial relationships and outspoken nature made him a liability. When he tried to separate from the mob's influence, threats followed. His fiancée was kidnapped, and his career almost vanished overnight. Sammy realized the hard truth. In Hollywood's golden era, even the brightest stars couldn't outshine the Mafia's darkness. Number 10. Humphrey Bogart, the tough guy who crossed the wrong men. Humphrey Bogart, the legendary star of Casablanca and the Maltese Falcon, built his image playing gangsters, but off-screen, he wasn't acting. During Hollywood's golden era, Bogart was surrounded by real mobsters who controlled bars, clubs, and even studio deals. He was outspoken, rebellious, and refused to take orders, a dangerous trait in a town quietly ruled by the Mafia. Rumors say Bogart clashed with several underworld figures after refusing to cooperate in money laundering schemes tied to film productions. Not long after, his health declined rapidly, and his circle of friends mysteriously shrank. Some believe the mob didn't kill him outright. They simply destroyed his opportunities, drained his fortune, and isolated him until he faded away. To the public, Bogart died of illness, but insiders whispered he'd been buried alive by the same shadowy figures who once made him a star. Number 11. Judy Garland, the broken doll of Hollywood. Judy Garland, the beloved star of The Wizard of Oz, had a voice that could melt hearts, but her life was a nightmare controlled by powerful men behind the scenes. From a young age, she was trapped in MGM's brutal system, where mob-connected studio heads used drugs, fear, and contracts to control their stars. Judy was pushed to exhaustion, addicted to pills the studio supplied, and constantly threatened to keep quiet about what she saw. Insiders claimed that the Mafia had deep influence at MGM, managing money, silencing scandals, and exploiting vulnerable actors. Judy tried to escape that world, but every comeback was met with new manipulation and loss. Her tragic death in 1969 wasn't just from addiction. It was the final act of a woman destroyed by a system run by greed and power. Judy Garland wasn't killed suddenly. She was buried alive slowly. Number 12. Errol Flynn, the swashbuckler with a secret past. Errol Flynn was Hollywood's ultimate adventure hero, charming, fearless, and adored by millions. But off-screen, his life was tangled with danger, scandal, and whispers of mafia influence. Flynn was known for his wild parties, where gangsters, politicians, and movie stars mixed freely behind closed doors. Some reports claim that mobsters financed his films and used his fame to launder money through Hollywood studios. When Flynn got older and started drinking heavily, he became a liability. He knew too many names, too many secrets. Friends later claimed he was watched, followed, and even blackmailed to stay silent about organized crime in the film business. By the time he died at just 50, broke and disgraced, many believed he'd been destroyed by the same forces that once made him a star. Errol Flynn didn't die a hero. He was buried alive by the darker side of Hollywood. Number 13. Howard Hughes, the billionaire who couldn't escape the mob. Howard Hughes was more than a filmmaker. He was one of the most powerful men in America. A genius, a playboy, and a recluse, Hughes controlled studios, airlines, and stars. But even a billionaire couldn't escape the mafia's reach. During the 1940s and 50s, the mob had deep investments in Las Vegas casinos and Hollywood production houses, both of which Hughes tried to control. When he started cutting out mafia profits and exposing their deals, they turned against him. Strange accidents, mysterious illnesses, and vanishing records followed. By the time Hughes went into hiding, he was addicted to drugs, isolated, and surrounded by handlers rumored to have mob connections. When he finally died in 1976, his body was nearly unrecognizable, frail, paranoid, and broken. Some say Howard Hughes wasn't hiding from fame. He was running from the mafia that buried him alive in fear. Number 14. Robert Mitchum, the actor the mafia couldn't control. Robert Mitchum was Hollywood's rugged rebel, cool, tough, and fearless on screen. But off-screen, he lived dangerously close to the underworld. Mitchum openly mocked studio bosses, refused to play by the rules, and made powerful enemies in both Hollywood and the mafia circles that quietly financed the industry. When he was arrested in 1948 for marijuana possession, many insiders whispered it wasn't a real bust, it was a setup. Mitchum had reportedly angered mob-connected producers by refusing certain dirty deals and speaking out against corruption. That arrest nearly destroyed his career, and even after his comeback, he stayed quiet about what really happened. Friends claimed he was warned, "Keep your mouth shut, or else." Mitchum survived, but he knew too well how close he came to being silenced for good. The mafia didn't need to kill him. They just buried his reputation alive. Number 15. Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia who knew too much. Elizabeth Short, forever known as the Black Dahlia, became one of Hollywood's darkest legends. She came to Los Angeles chasing fame, but instead, she fell into a deadly world of power, sex, and organized crime. Short was rumored to be connected to mob-run nightclubs and powerful men who promised her stardom in exchange for silence about their criminal ties. In 1947, she was found brutally murdered, her body mutilated and displayed in a way that shocked the nation. The case remains unsolved, but investigators and Hollywood insiders have long whispered that the mafia ordered her death. She allegedly witnessed something she wasn't supposed to see, perhaps a mob deal gone wrong or a secret Hollywood party involving powerful figures. Elizabeth Short's death wasn't random, it was a warning. She wasn't just murdered, she was buried alive by Hollywood's darkest secrets. Number 16. James Dean, the rebel who drove into darkness. James Dean was the ultimate symbol of rebellion, a young star who burned bright and died fast. But few know that before his fatal crash, Dean was tangled in some of Hollywood's darkest circles. He was reportedly connected to mob-backed film financiers and underground racing events secretly run by mafia families. Dean's expensive cars, wild lifestyle, and risky behavior were fueled by powerful friends who wanted to use his fame for laundering money. When Dean started to distance himself and speak about shady producers and fixers, everything changed. On September 30th, 1955, his Porsche Spyder slammed into another car, but some still believe it wasn't just an accident. The vehicle vanished after the crash, and every person who later owned its parts suffered strange fates. James Dean's legend lives forever, but behind it hides a story of a star buried alive by power, danger, and silence. Number 17. Rita Hayworth, the goddess trapped by the underworld. Rita Hayworth was the dream girl of the 1940s, a fiery beauty whose name defined Hollywood glamour. But behind her stunning smile was a life shadowed by fear and control. Hayworth's career was tied to studio bosses who had deep connections with the Mafia, and her marriages linked her even closer to dangerous circles. She was rumored to be pressured by mob-connected producers for favors and appearances at private parties where dark deals were made. When Rita tried to break free and speak out, she was blacklisted, humiliated, and left without protection. Friends said she often cried that they owned me. Her mental health declined, and she faded from the screen, not from lack of talent, but from silent punishment. The woman the world worshipped as a goddess became a prisoner of her fame. Rita Hayworth wasn't killed by the Mafia. She was buried alive in despair. Number 18. Clark Gable, the king who bowed to the mob. Clark Gable was known as the king of Hollywood, but even a king had to kneel when the Mafia pulled the strings. During the Golden Age, organized crime had its hands deep in film financing, unions, and even casting decisions, and Gable wasn't immune. Rumors swirled that early in his career, mob-backed producers helped him land key roles in exchange for loyalty. Later, when Gable tried to distance himself, he began receiving mysterious threats. Some say the sudden death of his wife, Carole Lombard, in a plane crash, was no coincidence. She had publicly criticized certain mob-connected Hollywood figures. After that tragedy, Gable changed forever, becoming withdrawn and paranoid. Those close to him claimed he feared being watched and controlled until his final days. To the world, Clark Gable was untouchable royalty, but in truth, even he was buried alive under the Mafia's silent rule.